What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, week 4, quarterback and running back plays. So this is on DraftKings, and I added a couple more things for this spreadsheet. You guys can get this if you subscribe to our Discord. All that is in the description, and I'll have my final plays on Sunday. So if you guys are interested, click the link for the Discord, but let's get into it. So quarterback, we got some good pay-ups this week, right? Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts above 8K, Josh Allen 82, the most expensive. Right now averaging 19, just under 20 DraftKings points a game. Going up against Miami, who just put up 70 points. We all know all that story. I don't need to go that much more in depth on that. But just going back and looking at Josh Allen's numbers against Miami, he's played 10 games so far in his career against Miami. Obviously, they're division opponents, so they're going to face each other twice. His floor is only 16.6 fantasy points a game. That's not DraftKings. That's just normal fantasy. So he's got probably around 18 to 19 DraftKings points is the floor. That is the lowest he's gotten in his 10 games in career. And remember, when he started off, he was not that good, but he still managed to get some fantasy points there. So the Buffalo Bills have the second highest team implied total this weekend. Also, I do believe they have the highest game total as well. So look at Josh Allen and this team to do what they do and play division opponents really well. But yeah, Josh Allen, 8,200, I think is a safe cash play. And if you look at it from the aspect of how Miami's offense has been, regardless of the 70 points, right, they play really good. Especially in the beginning of the year, they play really good. So look for someone like Josh Allen in that Buffalo offense to kind of carry the momentum. Last week, I mean, both teams had big blowouts. Obviously, Miami has the bigger one, but Josh Allen, obviously, I think is the more fantasy safer play for quarterback, right? The Miami running back game, I mean, look how many touchdowns the Miami running backs got. You would think a team with 70 points, too, would have had more fantasy points, which, I mean, he still did. He got his own, but you would have expected a lot more. But Josh Allen and that pass offense is going to be good in that one, so right now, Josh Allen is one of the top cash plays. But right below him is Jalen Hurts at 8,000, right? Fourth highest team implied total. 5 games against Washington so far in his career. Yet again, a lot of division games this week. It's a big division week. 12.6 has been his floor, and they're big favorites, right? Jalen Hurts obviously getting not only the opportunity to pass it, but run it in as well. He's one of the top red zone threats in football, right? He can run, gets the quarterback sneak push in, and has some key weapons there in the pass game against Washington, who just got blown out. So the Washington defense has been giving up some big points lately, so that's another game to watch out for. And Jalen Hurts at 8K. It's a good stacking option as well, too, for tournaments. Justin Herbert, 7,800 against Vegas. Justin Herbert, quarterback 2 so far on the season. That offense is very efficient. We'll see what it looks like without Mike Williams. It seems like we might get Austin Eckler back, so that means that Justin Herbert should be that much better. Josh Kelly has not worked out after what it looked like week 1, that he'd be a good substitute RB2 for the team. Has not lived up to that and has burnt me pretty good. Third highest team total, 26.75, and the Chargers have the 5th best pass blocking advantage. So Justin Herbert against Vegas, who their secondary is bad. Max Crosby questionable right now, and it seems like that locker room is starting to lose faith. Plus, the thing that worries me about this is the Chargers get a big lead against Vegas, who we don't know who the quarterback is going to be. Garoppolo in the concussion protocol. Hoyer, I guess, is going to be the next guy in line, but I personally like Aiden O'Connell. I have that in my notes here. We'll look at it soon. So Justin Herbert, though, I think is a really solid, safe play. Vegas defense giving up 19 fantasy points a game to quarterback. So another one there. And then, yeah, I got 2 of 7,400 as a tournament play right now against that Buffalo defense, who, I mean, that Buffalo defense has been playing very solid this year. You also have to factor in who they've played. But yet again, it's the highest game total, so that's on both sides. They have a 25.75, which I think is a top 5, maybe top 10 team implied total. They have a terrible PFF pass block advantage, but Tua gets the ball off really fast, so that may not be concerning. And then Tua's ceiling against Buffalo is at 18 fantasy points. Granted, it's probably a little higher with the DraftKings, but just going off fantasy numbers strictly, not DraftKings scoring, Tua's ceiling has been 18, so probably around 20 has been his ceiling so far against Buffalo in his career, but those numbers spew just because of the weather in Buffalo as well, so it's going to be some nice weather in Buffalo on Sunday, so that could change things. Kirk Cousins, 7,100, quarterback 1 in fantasy, right? This team has been playing behind a lot of mistakes, fumbles, and their defense has been pretty lackluster. Playing Carolina, who their defense is missing two key pieces for it. Their run defense is just very poor right now, so that can mean, Minnesota uses the newly acquired Cam Akers to go with Manson, and hopefully Manson has another good game, right? He had a very solid game last week, another good matchup, which we'll talk about soon for him, so that's my only worry, but I think Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson should have a really solid game. But then we get to Anthony Richardson, 6,700 against the Rams. Seeming like it's this year's Justin Fields, this year's Jalen Hurts, right? Remember, just the rushing upside makes them so good. It does not matter what they do in real NFL fantasy numbers. Anthony Richardson had 17 points. We had him in my lineup a couple weeks ago when he got injured in that first quarter, and he had 17, and I was beyond happy, and unfortunately he got the hit on the head and was out with concussion protocol for week 3. So week 4, it's seeming like he is going to be good to go here against the Rams. 3 touchdowns in 5 quarters of play. Rushing touchdowns, not passing, rushing touchdowns in 5 quarters is crazy. The game is just really 2 bad defenses. Yet again, it's not the passing aspect that we look at some other quarterbacks on this list, like Justin Herbert throwing 400 yards. Richardson, you're looking for his rushing upside. Steichen is using Richardson in the run game efficiently. So somebody like Anthony Richardson should have a good game. That's why he's a cash play. And then right below him is Justin Fields at 6,600. He's another cash play quarterback that I have right now currently. You look at Denver's numbers to quarterbacks, and yes, it's up there because of Miami, but just overall, you saw what Washington was able to do. Justin Fields, just the passing game, I don't know if that passing game will ever click this season, but there's one thing to be known is Justin Fields is going to run the ball, right? And that's why you like Richardson and Fields. Both of them, the price for their rushing upside is crazy. Hopefully Getsy gets some designated quarterback runs in this game against Denver, whose their defense has been bad, right? But the Bears' offensive line is also in a huge disadvantage, so it's not one of the safer cash plays, but I think Justin Fields for his price can be a cash. Joe Burrow, 6,500 is a good tournament play for me. I don't know if I'm going to have him there in cash yet, but I think he's a very solid tournament play, and that's just because of the pricing, right? If he's up to 7,500, we're talking a whole different story, but you look at his fantasy numbers compared to every other quarterback, averaging the least amount, right? Tennessee always really good against the run, which is concerning for Joe Mixon, but their secondary is just so bad right now. It is so bad. 3rd most passing yards allowed, and the PFF pass block advantage is pretty poor as well. And you got to remember Burrow has that calf injury, right? So he's not playing at 100%, but we could see a huge Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase game. This could be. We had a good one last week, but this could be the one that we've been waiting for. The 40 points from Jamar Chase and, a high 20, maybe low 30 game out of Joe Burrow. So 6,500, I'm definitely going to get exposure to Joe Burrow this weekend. Deshaun Watson at 6,000 against Baltimore had the 2nd best PFF pass block advantage. Cleveland missing some offensive linemen. but they were still able to move the ball pretty good last week. Baltimore missing some pieces. They're getting some pieces back, some pieces out, especially in the linebacker position. That's something to that actually benefits Cleveland's pass blocking as outside linebackers kind of be banged up. So he hasn't really blown up, right, any crazy huge games so far in fantasy, but with the amount of injuries, the pricing, and the matchup, I like Deshaun Watson for a tournament play. And then right below him, it's 4 quarterbacks in this spot. But Brock Purdy at 5,900 against Arizona. Arizona giving up 22.4 fantasy points a game to quarterbacks. Brock Purdy had some really solid numbers. The last time that Brock Purdy started against Arizona, he had 19 fantasy points. So kind of right where his average is. So getting about little over 3 times your value in a quarterback. They have the highest team total. They've hit 30 every game so far this year. Some things that are concerning is Deebo Samuel is very questionable if he's going to be able to play or not this week with the rib injury. In all honesty, I'd probably leave Deebo out. I know he's a competitor and wants to play as much as he can, but in a game like this where I said it last week with Dallas, I'm probably going to get burnt again, picking these high favorites. But San Fran, in a division game, should wipe the floor with Arizona. Arizona has been exceeding expectations of where their roster is, right? They're playing very hard, very tough. In every game, they're playing good, right? But San Fran has been one of the most consistently good teams, but every team has that game. This could be the game, right? 14-point favorites, highest team total. The run game looks amazing, and Brock Purdy's going to do his thing. Getting Brandon Ayuk back, it sounds like, so that's a huge piece. And then Bell played really good. He stepped in, so even if Deebo and Juwan Jennings, who's questionable, are out, Brock Purdy should still be in a very good spot. And then Russell Wilson, 5,800, I think is the pay down cash play. If you're paying down for somebody at quarterback in cash, it's Russell Wilson, right? 21.45 fantasy points a game. If you look on this sheet and look at all the quarterback numbers for fantasy points, right? That's where his number should be, right? He's averaging more than Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, who are the most expensive quarterbacks on the slate. And he's facing a bottom defense. Like, the 2 worst defenses are playing each other. And arguably, Chicago's one of the worst offenses in the league. Denver's run game hasn't been there, right? I like Javonte Williams. We'll talk about him shortly. But Russell Wilson, 5,800. 25 implied team total. 15.2 is his lowest fantasy game so far this season. A lot of good matchups on Denver's side. Injuries to the Bears. Almost every corner is injured for the Bears. They're all questionable. We'll see what that looks like come Sunday, but they could be out, and Russ could be one of the best quarterback plays on the slate. Doesn't mean that he's going to perform in that aspect, but as far as opportunity, matchup, pricing, and all that, he could be the best value. So that's a good one there. Matt Stafford is a tournament play at 5,700 against Indy. I've said it from the beginning, the Colts secondary is very bad. It's one of the worst secondaries in the league. But the thing that's concerning for me is Matt Stafford with the amount of points, and it seems yards, right? We hear of Tutu and Puka having amazing games. Kyron Williams getting... Stafford's highest is 19 DraftKings points. 19. And that's DraftKings. It's not just regular PPR, no bonuses, no nothing like that. 19, right? Really bad pass block advantage against Colts. But they're facing the second worst defense to quarterback, so that's huge. So Matt Stafford is a tournament play. I don't think I'm going to elevate him to cash at all, but another play to watch. And then last, I do have the Jimmy Garoppolo news, so this is something to check out and watch this week. If Aiden O'Connell's in, Aiden O'Connell is 4,000. He is the minimum, I believe, for quarterbacks is 4,000. A crazy value against his Chargers defense. I liked Aiden O'Connell. He looked really, really good in the preseason, and I hope they go for him if Jimmy Garoppolo unfortunately cannot play. I really like him in that matchup, so that could be the biggest value. We'll see. And then Sam Howell at 5,000, right? Huge dogs against Philly. I think it's at 8 right now. But Philly's allowed, I think, the second most passing touchdowns, 8. And Sam Howell's only 5,000. So we saw him have, I think, his worst game by far. against Buffalo last week, but 5,000 for the pricing and how bad Philly's secondary's kind of been. They cleaned it up pretty good last week against Tampa, but I think overall there's a lot of opportunities for Washington. That's why I have them as a value. And then we'll get to the running back. So almost same thing. Denver's running back, like fantasy points against, kind of make this chart very, very lopsided, right? Like we're getting to the 25, even the 33 doesn't look as good as that 51. So that's crazy. Christian McCaffrey, if Eckler's out, the pay up on McCaffrey is ridiculous. 1,400 than the next running back. I think he's a great tournament play going against Arizona, right? Arizona's just been bad against running backs. Tony Pollard was able to get his own, even though Arizona's offense outperformed Dallas's offense. But I think he's one of the safer plays. And with someone like Debo out, if he is out, that's someone stealing some opportunities or taking some opportunities from McCaffrey. So Christian McCaffrey, 9,200, keeping his touchdown streak. His fantasy points a game and what Arizona, they're pretty on par. So that's something I like there. Austin Eckler, watching the injury news, he had a limited practice. We'll see if he gets healthy. If he plays, I think he's a very solid play, right? Tony Pollard, the second highest owned cash projection right now, running back against New England. He has by far the most red zone opportunities of any player. So that means if Dallas gets down the field, which they do, and New England hasn't been the greatest, Tony Pollard's going to get volume. He's going to get opportunities. If he scores, he does. But at least he's getting that opportunity. That's what you really want when picking fantasy players is, volume, but also red zone volume. That's something huge. 7,100 is Josh Jacobs, right? His price hasn't really moved, but going against the Chargers, who've given up 22.9 fantasy points a game to running backs, it's a really good bounce back opportunity for him. They have the second best PFF run block advantage, and if Garoppolo's out, Aiden O'Connell, Hoyer, they're going to be reliant on their running back, get the running back volume, some checkdowns to Josh Jacobs. So I like Josh Jacobs at 7,100. And then we don't have another running back on my chart until 6,100. Alvin Kamara is another tournament play. A lot of unknowns, right? Kamara didn't look the greatest last year, but the quarterback play didn't either with Winston and Dalton. Don't know who the quarterback's going to be, so don't know what that looks like, but we saw what Josh Jacobs was able to do with Derek Carr as a quarterback. Kamara's way more explosive than Tony Jones, and I would assume is going to be better than what Kendre Miller gave us last week, unfortunately. But at 61, I think it's a really good price for a player of Alvin Kamara's potential. So Alvin Kamara's a tournament. I don't think I'll have him in cash, though. Kyron Williams and Zach Moss, both these guys at 6,000. Both cash plays for me, right? I mean, almost everything is the same, but Kyron Williams leads team in red zone volume, and that's with Akers getting all that volume to start the season, but no one else is getting any volume at the running back position so far for the Rams. So Kyron Williams is pretty much it. It's not the greatest matchup against the Colts. They play running backs pretty good, so you can see 17.8 only allowed a game, but if Kyron Williams is the only running back, that means Kyron Williams is getting 17.8 points, right? And he's averaging 17.9, so that's kind of on par right there as you like it. And Zach Moss, almost the same thing, getting a lot of the volume as well. His 2 games, he's played 2 games, 20.7 and 25.5 has been his fantasy points in the 2 games. And that's with essentially 2 different quarterbacks. Minshew, I mean, the volume was good for Zach Moss there. If Richardson's in, we don't know exactly what that looks like since Richardson was only able to play a quarter and got 2 touchdowns in that quarter. So that's something to kind of look at. I might lean towards Kyron Williams if Richardson is in, but I think Zach Moss is still a very solid, really good play. Alexander Manson at 5,800 is another one going against Carolina. I think the second worst defense, maybe the third, Chicago second. 2 running backs. Minnesota is the 6th best run block advantage. Leads the team in all red zone volume, and it's a good game script for him. Had a really good game, and with Cam Akers, he needed to, right? That's what I said last week, is if there's a game for him to have a good game, 17 DraftKings points is a good game in my opinion. He needs to have another one. He needs to keep Cam Akers off. we saw what Cam Akers can be, and we saw what he can't be. There's an opportunity. Cam Akers just fits the system well in Minnesota. So Alexander Manson needs to keep performing to keep Cam Akers off his tail. And at 5,800, it's a very good price point for Alexander Manson, and I'd say a very advantaged game for Minnesota. So I really like Alexander Manson for cash. And then down is 5,700 DeAndre Swift. I do not know how DeAndre Swift is only 5,700. I'm assuming they think Kenneth Gainwell down here is still getting, like, the volume he got was in the end of the game, and it was still not good, right? Obviously, you know Tampa's protecting the run. They know Philly's going to run. But we saw Swift run on Minnesota 2 weeks ago when Minnesota was playing the run, right? Philly's got the 5th best run back advantage, and Swift's numbers, just in carries, 44 carries for 305 yards. That is ridiculous. Regardless of the big touchdown plays, I think it's getting more clear and clear that they're going to go DeAndre Swift. They could do a total curveball and do what Philly's done in the past, minus Miles Sanders if you take him out of the equation, and just go with the hot hand and just keep switching running backs. So it's not the greatest run script, but for his price point and what he's produced and how good Philly's offensive line is, I think it's going to be a very good trench battle, which is why I'd probably go up for Manson or Javonte in this game, but Swift for how good he's done. Sometimes you have to stay with a hot hand. Rashard White, 56, is a good tournament play in my opinion. Right, his fantasy numbers only 12.1, and New Orleans only given up 15.6, one of the better teams to play against running backs. But being the bell cow running back for this team, and not only the run, but the pass game as well, getting that volume, I think is good in a good game like this, to where neither team really stands out as having a huge advantage in this game script. So Rashard White, I think 5,600 for the volume he could get is a very solid play, getting 15 to 16 points. It's kind of where I view him this week. Javonte, 5,500. I'm waiting for the Javonte game. I'm waiting for him to get majority snaps against P. Ryan just 1 week, and this is potentially the week to do it against the Bears. Bears given up 7 touchdowns to running back so far this year, 34.7 a game. So even with Samaje P. Ryan here getting 7.2 and Javonte at 8.6, that's only 15. There's a lot of opportunity for them against this Bears defense, who could be very banged up. And if Denver gets a lead through the air, look for Javonte and P. Ryan to split. Both get their equal amount of opportunities and have a potential really good game. And then we have some value plays coming in. Jerome Ford, 5,400 against Baltimore. 46 DraftKings points and 3 touchdowns in 2 games. Didn't have a good run game against Tennessee. I think it was all clear. We thought that, but he still managed to get some touchdowns. So he's being used in the pass game. Kareem Hunt, questionable. So if Kareem Hunt's out, Ford against Baltimore, who Baltimore plays running backs pretty good, but 3 touchdowns in 2 games is very good for someone like Jerome Ford at his price point. Josh Kelly, if Eckler's out, like I said, Eckler was limited. He's back on the field, but limited. But if Eckler's out, Josh Kelly at 5,300, yet again, is a good value. Everything is in his favor. Yeah, I don't know if I want to take a chance and ever get burnt on Josh Kelly again. Damian Pierce at 5,100, I think is a very good, solid play. The only thing that really concerns me is he hasn't been running the ball good, right? They've been missing some offensive linemen. They're going to miss some more. Pittsburgh's got a very good defensive line, but I think overall it's a good matchup, right? Steelers giving up 28 fantasy points a game to running backs, and we saw what Ford was able to do. So that's something to look out for. Damian Pierce, 5,100, but it is concerning. Jaylen Warren, same thing, another split back, but at 5,000 playing against Houston. And Houston's allowed 5 rushing touchdowns to running back, so that's something to monitor as well. But with his opportunities at his price point, and at any time can snap off a big play, 5,000 Jaylen Warren, I'm okay taking a risk on. Roshan Johnson, I'll continue to put it in. I think at some point he's going to do it. I'll say week and week and week until it happens. But if you watch Roshan Johnson play, when he plays so hard, right? I'm going to say it like that. Plays so hard, so tough. He wants every yard. He's one of those running backs to where there's some running backs that try to juke and get their yardage that way. Roshan's just going to run through you. He's a freight train coming through. Granted, I don't think the Bears are going to get 90-something DraftKings points from their running backs this week, but Roshan Johnson, in the pass game, looks very good. If you look at his rushing stats too, they're very good for this Bears underperforming offensive line as well too. One of the better running offensive lines last year. Get a huge upgrade in someone like Darnell Wright. But with some of the injuries, that kind of hurts the Bears' offensive line of what they're experiencing right now. But he's still averaging 10.2 fantasy points a game. So eventually he's going to break out, and I'm going to keep getting exposure until he gets his price adjusted for when he ever has his good game. Tyjae Spears at 4,700 is another value, right? He's starting to get up there in snaps. You look at the volume he's getting compared to Derrick Henry. It's only a matter of time, and unless Derrick Henry starts to get it together, right, that Tyjae Spears could overtake it. Elijah Mitchell is another one, and I only have Elijah Mitchell here, right? Last week, 14 opportunities through the run and the pass game when they were up by 20 against the Giants. If this is another game where they score 30, they're up by 14, Elijah Mitchell gets some opportunities at 4,600. Could be a really nice double stack to have both San Francisco running backs against Arizona. I don't think it's the greatest strategy, but paying 13.8 for your two running backs, I think is kind of on par with some of the prices that you pay for running backs. For a team that gives up 26.2 fantasy points a game to running back. So hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys want these sheets to look at come game day and are interested in joining us, we have a very cheap subscription package in what we offer. So if you guys are interested, click the link in the description for our Discord. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. I will do wide receivers, tight ends, and defenses. And then potentially Sunday have a final cash look. So if you guys are interested, hit the subscribe button and check it out. And I'll see you guys in the next one.